I'm supposed to be talking about perseverance since yesterday, but today is Mother's Day, so I need to say something about mother. The word that appears in my mind right now is the word endurance. Endurance, particularly the Chinese character. It is a knife piercing in a heart. That is the condition that a mother has to endure. Isn't that beautiful? Pictorial. Chinese language is a pictorial language, so very beautiful. So I will share with you a story of a mother from the Buddha's time. It is a story of a mother who endured the suffering of separation from her husband. A story of separation from her beloved only son. Now, can you tell me whose story I'm telling? Yasodhara. I'm telling you the story of Yasodhara. Prince Yasodhara, she was born the same day as the Buddha. So they were of the same age. They were married, supposedly, at the age of 16. But something happened when the Prince Siddhartha was 29. He was considering about this life and death, and he had already seen that Devaduta, the four Devaduta, the one that we cannot escape from illness, we cannot escape from old age, and we cannot escape from death. What's next? The fourth one he saw was an ascetic, something like a monk, sitting very peacefully, very calm under the tree. So that gave him an idea that the lifestyle that could lead you out of this suffering would be that of a sannyasi, of a monk. So that was an idea. So even when he was already married, and very interestingly, it was the night that Rahula, the baby, was born. When the soldier came to report to him that a son is born to him, so he exclaimed, Rahula. Rahula means bondage. Bondage. Bondage has already happened to my life, in my life. A son is a bondage. But equally, now he is thinking that not only I myself is trapped in the world of suffering. I could not yet get the way out. I could not yet find a way out. And now my son is born, and my son is now going to be equally trapped in this samsaric cycle. So he went to see his wife. The artist always portray that he was just standing at the door, looking at the wife sleeping with the baby, newborn baby in her arm. The artist could not make up his mind whether the prince should enter the room or not. But if the prince should enter the room, wake up his wife, he will never be able to leave. He will never be able to leave, because the bondage between the wife and particularly the newborn son is so immense that he will not be able to separate from them. So the artist made him to only stay at the door, looking in the sleeping wife and the sleeping son, and he left. I'm not talking about the story of the Buddha. I'm talking about the story of a woman, and her name is Yasodhara. To celebrate today is a Mother's Day. In Thailand, we take 12th of August as Mother's Day because our queen was born on that day. What happened to Yasodhara? Yasodhara woke up the next morning waiting for her husband, because she brought the beautiful gift in life that a woman could give to her husband and to her husband's family, namely a birth of a son. But he did not come. Late in the morning, still he has not come. So as she looked around, the maid, the royal servants, none of them would meet her eyes. Something is going on wrong. Something is not right. Something that is happening in this palace that is not right. Then Mahapajapati, her aunt and also stepmother, came to visit. She praised her with all the beautiful words, that you are such enduring mother, that you are such a beautiful daughter, and you are such a beautiful wife. What is this? What is this? She was thinking. The praise coming from the queen was a bit too much. Eventually, she came to know from the mouth of Queen Mahapajapati that her beloved husband already departed the night before. It was such a heartbreaking experience for having brought to this world the most beautiful gift that a woman can make, that is a birth of a son. And now the husband was not there to share this joy of this beautiful gift. So she went in her own room, went into her private room, and wept to her heart content. As a princess, nobody else should see her tears. So the suffering was so much, and so much endurance that she had to experience. Days passed by, and now news came that now her husband has already removed his hair, already removed all the jewelry as appropriate to a prince. And now he is leading a life of a sannyasi. So she followed the same way. She removed all the jewelries, and then she was dressed only in white sari to accompany her husband. She was eating only 2 meals a day because she heard from the soldiers who were reporters. The king always sent a group of soldiers looking to see what the prince is doing out there in the wilderness. Every time the news come, she would be following him like a devoted wife. Of course, the gossip in the palace was very strong. What has she done? What kind of wife she is? She must have been behaving not proper. That's why her husband left her. For a woman to have been left behind by her husband is the most serious crime that a woman can think of. Thus, she remained in the palace in that condition for 6 years. And then when the son is now 7th year, the news came because Venerable the king, Suttotana, actually sent another group of soldiers to go and meet now the Buddha. Already he became the Buddha. The princess knew only that her husband already achieved what he went for. Therefore, he should be coming back. And she was waiting for him. Eventually, the Buddha came. And he was begging. He was begging in the marketplace. Cannot imagine. A Sakya never eats the food that is cooked by others. Not to mention about receiving food offered by the people in the city. It was such a shock to her. She had to endure the insult. The people in the palace were discussing, were being very critical about the behavior of her husband. And then finally he came, and the king invited him to have lunch in the palace. She looked at him only from far away and admiring him, her husband, still her husband. Such a good-looking physique, very beautiful body. Now he is dark, much darker than when he left the palace. But nevertheless, so beautiful, so charming. But when he actually came, she did not come out. She remained in her palace, in her inner palace, which used to be their palace. So after the Buddha gave the sermon to all the Sakyas, to the father and the mother and all the Sakya families, he noticed that she was not among them. So he made inquiry, where is Princess Yasodhara? The king sent the maidservant to invite her to come to the main palace. Listen very carefully. This is the only evidence in the Buddhist text which a woman refused to follow what the Buddha requested. She said no. She said no. So the message came with the maidservant back to the king and back to the Buddha that the princess refused to come. This is the first refusal when we read the text. The Buddha understood right away. He understood right away. Of course, he's all omnipresent, omnipotent, He knew what is happening. And he realized the mistake he did for her. So he left the grand palace and walked towards the inner palace which belonged to her and to them. They used to live together in that palace, along with the king, the queen, and the whole retinue of the relatives in the palace. Now, the Buddha turned to Moggallana and Sariputra and the monks who followed him. Whatever form of paying respect that she is offering to me, you don't interfere. You don't interfere. A very, very sensitive issue. Very sensitive issue. So as soon as the Buddha walked towards the palace, she came out of the palace. She let loose her hair, her long hair. Let loose her long hair and wipe his feet with her hair. ในภาษาไทยจะมีแกะสลักเรียกว่าพิมพาพิลาภอยู่ที่ทางภาคอีสานค่ะหลวงแม่จำประเทศไม่ได้สยายผมเช็ดพระบาท The Buddha picked her up like this and brought her inside the palace, seated her down, and gave the sermon on Ginari Jataka. Every word that I'm telling you, there is a meaning in between the lines. เวลาอ่านเรื่องนี้ต้องอ่านเนื้อความระหว่างบรรทัด Why did he choose to tell the story of Ginari Jataka? Ginari Jataka was the birth that both of them were born as Ginnara and Ginnari. Half man and half bird. The upper part is human being, the lower part is a bird. Both of them were living in Himalayan mountain, at the foot of the mountain. And the Ginnari is a female, the Ginnara is a male one. So she was born a Ginnari, and he was born as a Ginnara. So the hunter came and saw the Ginnari, so beautiful. She was so beautiful. So when they were taking bath, he took that time to capture her. He captured her and took her to Varanasi and offered it to the king. She made a vow that she had complete trust, complete devotion to her husband, and may this be the power to protect her. So this power to protect her, every time when the king came to approach her, coming close to her, wanting to touch her, her body was like a flame, like fire, very hot, so he could not touch her. She refused to eat. Any kind of food that was offered to her, she refused to eat. So eventually she became very thin. And the king, he realized that he could not do anything with this woman, so might as well send her back. So the king called the hunter and asked the hunter to take this Ginnari back to wherever you found her. So that was how she was taken back to the forest where she united again with her husband. This story tells how she was so faithful to her husband. It must have been the criticism among the palace women that maybe she's not trustworthy, she's not faithful to her husband, that's why her husband left. I imagine that it must be like this, because otherwise why did the Buddha choose to tell this particular story at that particular time? After that, he's told all the audience, people in the audience, how she had been his wife, always faithful, always very good wife, through all the birth that they have been born together. Thus, establish her in a rightful position. Establish her in a respectful position, status that she earned as a princess of the Sakya. And then the Buddha left with the retinue of monks to return to Nikrotharama. And the next day, he came again with the retinue of monks for alms round. This time, the Princess Pimpa or Princess Yasodhara came with Rahula. And she told Rahula, look at the man who is walking in ahead of everyone else. That is your father. You go and ask him for Dayacha. Dayacha means heritage, meaning the heritage for the throne of Kapilavastu. So the young boy, Rahula was only 7 years old, he went to the Buddha, bowing to the Buddha, and walked along the Buddha, asking for heritage. So the Buddha thought, what kind of heritage I would give to my only son? The best heritage would be Arya heritage. Arya Dayacha. So his right hand is holding the bowl, the left hand is holding the hand of Rahula, the little Rahula, and followed him until they arrived in Nikrotharama. And the Buddha gave Rahula to Sariputra. Rahula was ordained as the very first Samanera in Thai history. Such heartbreaking news when it came to the mother. When the Prince Siddhartha, her husband, left her for 6 long years, for 7 long years, she could endure the suffering because there was a son with her. She lived for the son. And now the husband is gone. And now he becomes something like the Buddha that she did not understand. But now the most beloved person, that is the son, is already being taken away from her. So when she saw them depart, she could not see. She could not see them because her eyes were full of tears. So this is the endurance of a woman who is a mother from the Buddha's time. Later on, when Mahapajapati became the first bhikkhuni, she did not join her immediately. Maybe Yasodhara joined the order as a bhikkhuni a year later. But once when she joined the order, with her experience of so much endurance that she had to go through in her life, she became enlightened, set herself free from the bindings of the clinging to my husband, my son, my family. And she was an arahat. She was praised by the Buddha. Not only that she was enlightened, but she was foremost in Maha-Apinya. Maha-Apinya, only one person on the female side who received this recognition. At the age of 78, she had been a teacher throughout her life as a bhikkhuni. At the age of 78, she thought that she was born the same year as the Buddha. To pay respect to the Buddha, now as the Buddha, not anymore as her husband, the Buddha and her teacher. She should depart. She should leave this physical body before him. So she went to the Buddha and asked permission to take leave of this life. The Buddha gave her permission, but very interestingly, the Buddha also asked her to perform the miracles. So she performed the miracles. You must be reminded that the Buddha usually do not encourage the monks to perform miracles. But at this particular moment, he asked her, requested her to perform miracles. So she performed miracles. She went up in the air and showed like you are watching a big huge screen of television. how in each life that she was born together with the Buddha, and up there in the sky she's bowing to the Buddha in each life. And then the last one is she herself, but 1,000-fold of Yasodhara Bhikkhuni on the sky. All the 1,000 Yasodhara bowed to the Buddha at the same time. And then she came back on earth and bowed to the Buddha and take leave of the Buddha. One who knew that she had this foremost opinion was nobody else but the Buddha. So that's why the Buddha had to ask her to perform miracles, so that it will delete the doubt that there might be in the hearts or in the mind of the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis that yes, indeed, she was foremost in Maha Appinya. So she passed away very peacefully, very quietly, and the Buddha was the one who actually performed cremation for her, worthy of the bhikkhuni who is an arahat and worthy of a princess from the Sakya. So this is a story of a mother, one of the most touching story of a mother who endures. The key word for today is endurance, which is the quality of a mother, and it should be a quality of all of us to endure the hardship in order so that we walk this path towards enlightenment. Thank you.